everyone, we are here at KubeCon Detroit 2022. I'm at the Grafana Labs booth, and I'm here with Eamon. Eamon, how's it going for you?
It's going really great. It's a lot busier compared to last year. I was here in Los Angeles last year. It was very, very quiet, as you might imagine, from everything going on, but it's picked up a lot.
Just after the pandemic.
Yeah,
that was
just after the pandemic. We're obviously still masked up, but it's much busier compared to last year.
Amazing.
That's great.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about all the the discussions around monitoring on observability at this KubeCon. So we have a big booth and such a bright orange color. So I'm sure you got like a lot of folks join in. Had quite a lot of discussions. Before we move forward, can you tell us a little bit more about why today people are talking so much about observability and monitoring, and what are some of the challenges that people face?
Sure. I think there's even more of a buzz than ever before around observability because of the nature of how applications and how they're run has evolved over time. So now that everybody's shifted to this kind of cloud native mindset and everything's on containers, there's just so many more things to keep track of. And so being able to do that becomes ever more important. It's really hard to do with a lot of the legacy tooling that's existed in the past. So now when you're trying to track things like hundreds, thousands, millions of containers, you can't do that with the older tools. You need something that's able to adapt to the way that the world now works.
And can you tell us a little bit more about any big announcements that happened in this particular field, or if you're attending any talks that you really liked?
I attended a few talks. I was actually at Open Observability Day, which is one of the co-located events on Monday. There was a lot of interesting talks. There was some from our side where there's a lot of talks around Open Telemetry. That's probably the one that had the most buzz. I think over half the talks on Monday were about Open Telemetry, which is, if people aren't familiar with it, it's a new way of tracking telemetry, including logs, metrics, traces, but in a way that's agnostic to the vendors. Which means that if you have all your telemetry being output via Open Telemetry, and you wanted to move from vendor A to vendor B, you wouldn't have to retool anything. You just change the destination and pretty much off you go. And that's very exciting for people. That gives them more mobility to go with the provider that they really want to, and avoid them having to do rework if they decide that someone isn't right for them.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And Grafana has been around for a while. So, and you mentioned that you've attended KubeCons in the past.
So the trends that I've seen seem to be that people are trying to navigate away from proprietary vendors. So vendors where they're not very heavy on open source, and they're using proprietary formats, and they're very locked in. And also, typically, some of those vendors tend to be on the more expensive side as well. So with the way economic stuff is kind of shifting, people are trying to shift either to open source entirely and running it themselves because it's cheaper, or they're trying to shift at least to a vendor that's backed by open source, so they feel they have more mobility to switch if they really want to. At our booth in particular, what we see is everybody knows Grafana, and they connect Grafana to all sorts of things. They don't necessarily know that we have other tools, like we have a logging tool and a metrics tool and a tracing tool that you can see on the pretty orange backdrop here. So we spend a lot of time telling people about those, educating people about those, because most people think that we just have the tool that makes pretty graphs. But that's not true. We have more out there.
All right, so my last question to you is, with the trends that we have been seeing, what is something that we're likely to see in the coming future, let's say 1 or 2 years down the line?
I think we're going to see a pretty large push into the eBPF side of things.
Everyone's saying that. I asked it. It's like eBPF and security for some reason.
Yeah, eBPF, security. We actually just announced a partnership with Isovalent, so Isovalent and Cilium, to have an integration working there, because that's where people are trending. There's a push towards continuous profiling, so that's a really exciting space, as people are calling it, the fourth pillar: logs, metrics, traces, and profiles. To give extra insight that you couldn't get otherwise. So I think that's what we're going to see, is a push towards profiling, eBPF-based solutions, and everything down that kind of track.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for sharing, Eamon. And if you want to learn more about observability monitoring and what Grafana Labs is doing, check out the links in the description below. For more videos from KubeCon, check out Civo TV on YouTube.